All right, today we are diving deep into the absolutely wild story of Nuburu. You know it as ticker BURU. This stock has been on a complete roller coaster, right? So we're going to break down the technicals, really get under the hood, and figure out what on earth is driving this incredible surge. And more importantly, what could be coming next. So let's get right into it. Okay, so before we can even begin to look at the analysis, you've got to understand the event that kicked this whole thing off. And with BURU, we're talking about a massive, truly eye-popping surge that basically put this stock on every single trader's radar. So the story really kicks off with this staggering peak. I mean, just look at that number, a massive climb that absolutely nobody could ignore. But you know, that peak, it's really only half the story.
And then you've got the other side of the coin, this recent low. I mean, that gap between the high and the low, that's pretty much the textbook definition of volatility. And that is exactly why we're digging into all the data today.
So the big question is, what fueled this insane swing? Well, it all comes down to an incredible surge in trading activity. We're not just talking a little bit of interest here. This was a massive flood of people jumping in, and it completely changed the game for this stock. And here's a number that just puts the sheer scale of that flood into perspective. 1.14 billion shares traded in a single day, October 8th. You know, for a stock like BURU, that's not just high volume, that's a historic, once-in-a-blue-moon kind of event. It's really the central clue in this whole investigation. All right, so when you see a crazy event like that, the very first thing any good analyst does is the zoom out, right? Before you get bogged down in all the tiny details, you have to look at the big picture, just to get a lay of the land, to understand the environment this stock is even operating in. And what that big picture is telling us right now is that the stock is trading above both its 50-day and its 200-day moving averages. Now, these are super important trend lines that traders watch like a hawk. And being above both of them, especially after a huge move like this, that's a classic sign of a strong, bullish short-term trend. To put it simply, the momentum right now is definitely positive. So now that we've got the lay of the land, it's time to pull out the magnifying glass. We're going to zoom right in on what you could call the forensic evidence. We're talking about specific technical indicators that act like little clues, telling us about the real health and likely direction of this trend. And we're going to start with what are called momentum indicators. The easiest way to think about these is like they're the stock's speedometer and its fuel gauge all rolled into one. They tell us exactly how fast the price is moving and, crucially, if it's in danger of running out of steam. Okay, so this table gives us, well, it's kind of a mixed bag of clues, honestly. On one hand, you've got the MACD showing bullish momentum. And look at the money flow index, the MFI. It's at a crazy high 85.1. That confirms a ton of money is pouring in. But, and this is a big but, you've got these other two indicators, the RSI and the stochastic oscillator. And they're both flashing a warning sign. They're saying the stock is overbought. Now, what does that mean? Think of it like a car's engine screaming in the red line. It's awesome for a second, but you know it can't stay there forever. It's a major sign of strain, and it's basically screaming that this rally might need to take a breather. So what do you get when you put all this data together? You've got these bullish, positive signs on one side, and these bright red cautionary flags on the other. It all points to a conflict, right? It's like a classic tug-of-war between the buyers and the sellers. And this fight is happening at some very specific, very important price levels. This is the battleground. Now, every battleground has its key features. And for this one, there's a very clear ceiling. Analysts call this resistance. And for the stock to keep climbing, this is the number the bulls absolutely have to break through. And where is the stock right now? Well, it's trading right smack in the middle of this fight. And just below it, you have the floor. This is what we call the support level. Think of it as the critical line of defense where buyers have been digging in their heels. If this uptrend has any hope of continuing, this floor absolutely has to hold. And this quote from the analysis really nails down why this specific price range is so important. It says, the highest volume concentration is around the 0.47, 0.52 price range. So what that means is, this is where the most shares have changed hands. It's the point of maximum interest. It is quite literally the line in the sand where the market is trying to decide what to do next. All right, so after weighing all this evidence, the overall trend, those tricky indicators, and these key battleground levels, the analysis wraps up by laying out the two most likely paths forward from here. And here they are, the two potential scenarios, laid out side by side. So the bullish scenario, that's where the positive momentum just keeps on trucking, and it pushes the price right up through that resistance ceiling we talked about. The bearish scenario, on the other hand, is that those overbought warning lights were right all along. That would cause a pullback, sending the stock back down to test that support floor and just cool off for a bit. So the million-dollar question, which path is more likely? Well, the analysis actually leans toward a pullback. Look, after a surge this huge, this fast, a period of just cooling down, what analysts call consolidation, it isn't just likely, it's often a pretty healthy and necessary thing before the next big move can happen. And that's why, when all is said and done, everything really comes down to this one number. This support level is the single most important thing to watch right now. If it holds firm, the bulls are probably still in control. But if it breaks and stays broken, that could be a signal that a much deeper correction is on the way. So that leaves us with the big question, right? Is this massive surge in BURU a sign of real, sustainable new strength? Or is this a classic case of a stock flying a little too close to the sun? The technicals? Well, they give us the roadmap with all the potential turns and warnings. But ultimately, it's the market that's going to decide the final destination.